The simple rule set games on the math out-compete crunchier old school games. So in the old school, simpler games were way more successful. Just like basic fantasy RPG, they were Tunnels and Trolls, success beyond what it should have ever been. Way more successful than crunchier games. And there's a reason. It was made for hobbyists and thinkers. And no, the crunchier games were not more about structure. And reality was crunchier games, many of them, not all, but many, this is the absolute truth, tried to make up for the lack of talented people trying to run games. That's the truth. A lot of tools, especially in a game like 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, not picking on 3rd edition people, really, really not, but it is true. 3rd edition is made to make it easier for a less talented person, a less skilled person, to run a tabletop role-playing game. I mean, and either you accept that fact or you don't. I don't care. It is what it is. Not a difference in opinion here. Lighter rules are there for people that can perform and have a mind, have the talent, have the skill to be at the head of the table. And this is not true for every crunchy game, but definitely true for a game like 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons. That is made for people with less talent and less skill to run the game. And out of crunchy games, because it had a D&D title, it's an exception when you look at what its success it had. The majority of old school games, when competing, crunchy to light rules are more successful. So if you're going to say that crunchier was more successful or had structure, not structure, man, it was made for mediocrity. Right? You basically, designers start learning. You need people that can run the games, and you have to accept that if you make a game lighter and requires more talent, that means less people can run your game. That means you'll sell less. So as a business, you start moving up that world. Oh, Sam OG, if you heard me from the start till now, I keep saying it's not true for every crunchy game. Burning Wheel, that I made a character for that you're talking about, I can appreciate exactly what you're saying. That's not more structure, that's more free-wielding. I would even say that's more leaning in the talent-based area of a game like Traveler. Right? So Burning Wheel or a crunchy game like that, me and you 1,000,000% agree. Right? So that's it. But here's what I'm arguing against, Sam OG, mainly. I heard a guy make a comment about crunchier games being overall, and we're talking like 3rd edition D&D, being made as more structure, not about the reason they were actually made. 3rd edition is made to make it easier on guys running the game who don't have that much talent or skill to run the game. That's just absolute truth. Just like rules is written AD&D 1 mixed with the tournament style approach, made so the store owner with no talent at all and knows nothing about D&D could step in and run the game by the book and learn it overnight and run it the next day in the tournament for public customers. It is about producing more people that can run the game under a sort of mediocre structure. It is a structure, but it's not made because it's trying to help out talented people at the start of the table. It's trying to take the janitor who knows nothing about D&D and making it that he, with no talent at all, can run the game for you. Right? When you go back to old school and lighter rule games, most of them are extreme talent. Traveler. You got to have common sense. You got to be able to improvise. These are all skills that should be they're normal in the old school, to be able to improvise and think fast on your feet and be able to react to players. Because so few people do it today and talk about it like it's challenging, and because if you don't do something enough, it does become challenging for you when it should not be hard at all. It's a lost art. Most people don't improvise that much anymore. Most people do not go free-wielding on games. Travelers, very light rules, other light rule games. And when we look at light rules as far as financial successes, the YouTuber was arguing that somehow crunchier games sold more. Well, that's an absolute lie. You go back to earlier games from Traveler to Tunnels and Trolls, and you look at their sales, the success financially on the market. they outcompete the crunchier games around them. I don't mind Burning Wheel. Has a cult following. Basic fantasy RPG. Very light rules as far as the game goes. Math outsells it hugely. I like Burning Wheels. I really do. I don't want to insult what we're doing together. I do appreciate what I've learned about Burning Wheels. And I do agree with you on certain games like that being completely different. So I wouldn't count them into the crunchy games that I'm criticizing myself. So I'll separate that and I'll acknowledge what you're saying. So we 100% agree on that threshold thing, right? So that's different. But in reality, a crunchy game like Burning Wheel didn't sell 10% of the products that a game like Basic Fantasy RPG sold. I mean, and if you look back at the history by capacity, Tunnels and Trolls, man, that blew up. And Tunnels and Trolls was made by a guy who thought AD&D, original Dungeons and Dragons, an extremely simple game. Want to know what he said about it? It's too complicated. Tunnels and Trolls was made as a more simple version of original Dungeons and Dragons. And the thing fucking blew up in sales. Blew up. Tunnels and Trolls is way more successful than it ever should have been. And the guy put it out in a half-assed way. There was not an effort for it to mean something. He put it out as a personal gimmick. Like, I like a simpler game, so I guess I'll put it out. Seriously. That was it, Samuel G. I'm not joking with you. This guy just went, fuck it, I'll put it out. Who cares? Maybe like fucking 5 people will buy it. That was his attitude. And that's real. He never put it out with his mind going, oh, this is going to blow up. Tunnels and Trolls, there's a reason we know about it now. It fucking blew up. It was successful. And I mean, extremely successful. Look at Easy D6. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what's good about the simple games? And I think, because Burning Wheel isn't that far away from that mindset of freedom. I think you would get this because Burning Wheel, I think, isn't opposed. I think there's some crunchy games out there that actually are crunchy in areas where it's not about getting away from what the simplicity games are trying. They're generic. We talked about that today when I was doing the character thing with the old school D&D. These are blank canvases mainly, where it gives you a lot of control as a game master to bring your talent, bring your vision, bring your style, bring what you like from what you've experienced in the hobby to the game. And you then can role play more if you want. You could possibly do more combat if you want to adjust things to combat. That is, but I look at a game like Burning Wheel, and I definitely, because we just had that today. It's why I'm so high on it right now, and in a very good way, a very complimentary attitude towards my education on Burning Wheel. Is I find that a lot of freedom you would have as a game master in more simple games like Traveler still is protected and appreciated in the Burning Wheel. Like I liked our talk. It's the freedom of the player to pitch something. It's the freedom of how you want to deal with it. It's that type of loose decision making where it's not rigid. It's not like based in a structure of rules. This is basically you're just going to read what the book says to me. See, this is what I mean. So I agree with you when I say I separate crunchy. Crunchy to me is rigid, like 3rd edition, right? I read out of the book, what happens to you? 5e, I read out of the book, what happens to you? Burning Wheel? No. Burning Wheel is just to help the game master deal with some very complicated things in the world. It's all it's trying to do, but it's not taking your control or your view or your freedom away. Marvel Superheroes game I recently covered. And I told you this already personally in our personal talk. I just covered it the other day, but I feel like it's the exact same thing. It actually gives the person running that game a lot of freedom, a lot more than you can imagine. But you're going to find a lot of crunchy rules, but it's not a set of rules that's rigid or controls the game master or the player. It's just that, I gave the example of the Spider-Man shooting the spider webbing, right? So imagine a creative player could do 50 million things with that thing. I mean, if you try to write out what you could all possibly do with spider webbing, shooting spider webs out, you could write like fucking 20 pages of things Spider-Man could possibly do in random situations. I mean, you could write forever. Well, what this game does is just says, just like sort of Burning Wheel, it gives you a bit of a complicated way, but it sort of like needs to be, to say, here's a system that allows you to put tools to any way the player uses the spider webbing in a way that the tools, through your judgment, can simply in a common sense way be applied. So anything a player wants to do, the 5 million things they can do with the Spider-Man spider webbing shooting thing, he could do, and you have tools that allow you to create, what you need, what you want to count as a rule to be able to apply dice roll, apply whatever mechanic you need for that to work. So you don't have to just say, where there should be a challenge, oh, it works. I mean, there should be a challenge. It shouldn't be that easy. Well, how do you make sure you have something to apply to everything that can be done? That's what it does. Burning Wheel, from what I learned about it in the last week or so, is it has a lot of this stuff saying, here, we don't want you to not feel like you have freedom, but there's a million things you could do, player. And there's a million ways the game master could, take care of this stuff. But we're just going to give you a structure that says we're not going to control the freedom of what you're going to do, but we're going to help you, so the game master has tools to go, hey, that thing needs a rule to it, but there's not one written down. But here's the tools I need to apply to that, so it becomes that type of mechanic for you in that moment, right? And then, like I talked about recently in the video, once you start applying something to something, it's about your judgment and consistency. So it's like it's when I notice this is how you apply it to a physical thing, maybe I'll expect as we go forward, a lot of physical things I'll do, this is how you'll apply, something to something, right? And if you're consistent, and I can read that, not to cheat, because it's still going to be a dice roll, it's still going to be a challenge, but the better I can read that, so I know how to play the game, just like I understand the rule in the actual book itself, the directed rule, the more competent you become to me, and the more I trust you as a player over time. That's why consistency is so important, because in a game like that, where if you're trying to swim and you need an ability score applied, well, if it's always a different one, then, or which one, dude? What am I doing here? Can I count on anything? Can I learn from what you're doing and then be able to think about that as I make a decision going forward? And so Burning Wheel is great of having those type of tools that allow you to apply it. But then once you do it, of course, I think players would be then looking at you to be consistent with your thought process. But you don't expect the next game master to have to think like you. The only thing you want to count is whatever that guy does, be consistent. So he might apply it differently, but if you go into his game, same OG, even if he applies the rules differently, but he's consistent, you build back up to that trust. Well, he might be different than me, but at least I know what he's going to do here. Like, you learn that from experience, right?